Today I'm sitting here with a good friend, Owen Reigler. Thank you for doing this, appreciate it. He's one of the most accomplished whitetail hunters I know, someone who's truly built his entire life around chasing whitetails. You may recognize him for Midwest Whitetail, his many contributions there over the years. He's killed some giant deer. We're going to talk today about how hunting eventually led him into business, land ownership, habitat work, and filming his own hunts. And we're going to get into the background of that story. So
thanks for having me, Chuck.
Thanks for having your time here. Thanks for taking your time here, I should say.
Yeah, people need to know you're an old-time friend. It's not like we're just two guys that just met sitting here. So.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your habitat project to
it saved me from chainsawing today, so it's a good thing.
Well, that's probably a safer bet because it is howling out there with the wind. So we're sitting here in a room today. You've shown us around, given us the tour.
Yes, sir.
Some giant deer. I think you counted 17 bucks over 170 inches, Boone and Crockett deer. So, but that's not where it all started. So I wanted to maybe, for the people that don't know, kind of go back. Obviously I know the history and the background, but maybe go back to where it all started for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Michigan. I grew up in Southwest Michigan, hunted a lot of public there. Of course, I can't leave my dad out. He got me started real young, as you know. We've talked about it before, but you know, he started taking me hunting with him, fishing, trapping, everything outdoors. And at a young age, I mean, I was just ate up with it. There was something magical about when I got around that first deer and you're looking them in the eyes, maybe you're on the ground, you know. It just, something just hit me and it's like, man, I've got to do more with this. It's just, you know, of course it helped that my dad loved it too, and I always wanted to be with my dad. So I don't know if initially I just wanted to be around my dad or I just loved hunting so much, but at some point I realized like it's just something magical about being around big game, you know, and so that's where it all started to get me eventually to here.
Yeah. Was he a bow hunter?
Was not a bow hunter, so he was just a gun hunter. I say just, I mean, he loved his gun hunting, you know, and I don't know what got me into bow hunting. I think, you know, I just started shooting a bow one time, knew about bow hunting, and there was something about archery just kept me coming back. Even when I was young, you know, I started shooting when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and even back then it's like the challenge of trying to put every arrow in a, you know, a 5-inch group or a paper plate or whatever it was back then. You could never do perfect, so every time I was like, my mindset is I'm, you know, kind of a perfectionist, and so it just brings you coming back. I know I can do better every time, you know.
Always something to work on.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So did you get into archery hunting around the same time, or how long before you started actually hunting?
I was 12 years old, so roughly around the same time.
That's awesome. I think that's where it starts for a lot of people, you know, and it's exciting to be able to look back on that as a memory and remember your dad.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Him introducing you.
You know what he meant to me and all the places we've been hunting together, so it's yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into that, but you know, it's been 3.5 years and still miss him like it was yesterday, so that's a tough one.
Yeah, I can understand that. Definitely somebody had a huge influence on your life, obviously, as we've walked around and seen today, so.
Yep.
Tell me about your hunts out west.
Oh my gosh, I remember him so well, but for some reason, I just love going out there, and I don't know if it was because I was on vacation, you know, I was working a lot at the time. Of course, I was with my dad, which I always loved to be with him, was having a good time, and then to be out there in the mountains with, you know, if you've never seen it out there, it is so vast and beautiful. It's like, this is where I belong. You know, you feel like this is where I belong to live. And, you know, it was kind of like that moving to Iowa, too. It's kind of that middle tier. But it wouldn't surprise me someday if I didn't end up out there. It's just something else, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous out there. That, those hunts you went out there with him on, were you always hunting elk, or what were you guys doing out there?
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Chuck knows that I love to hunt muleys. It's spot and stalk muleys out there is my favorite hunt of all time. It's very difficult because you always got, you know, 8, 10 deer in a bachelor group. You kick one rock and there they go. But I love the challenge of it. The other thing I love is you're watching game all day. Maybe you're on the side of the mountain, you know, when the sunrise comes up and you're watching all these deer and you're like trying to pick one you want to go after. And so that's my favorite hunt, you know. Of course, we hunted elk too, and that was a lot of fun, but never did get a big muley, so I'm still after one.
It's on the bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the last year that you guys went out there together? You said you went for 10 years in a row?
So 2002 I went out, and Dad had gone out ahead of time, so he was already out there, and I went out with a guy I worked with at the time and called for him. I didn't have a tag, but he shot a real nice bull that year.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was the same year I actually moved out to Iowa.
So what year was that again?
2002.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask about was when you moved to Iowa, you know, what drove that?
Well, I was just ate up with deer hunting, and of course, you know, I'm watching everything I can, reading all the articles. You know, every VHS that comes out, I'm watching, and you keep hearing the same thing. Iowa, Iowa. You know, if you're watching Stanley, you know, oh, you got to go to Iowa. It's a crazy place to go, you know. And so that got me thinking as I kept raising the bar in Michigan, and I finally kind of got where I felt like I was shooting the top tier bucks in Michigan. Now I want to go to the next place, even though, you know, we're always hunting for food. That's something we don't talk enough about, but we always know that's why we're hunting. But, you know, for somebody like me that is so ate up with it, if you were just out there hunting for food, you'd be done the first day, you know what I mean? So
Right.
you keep raising the bar, you get to a point where, okay, now where can I raise the bar even farther? And I kept looking at Iowa. First I looked at Missouri, and then I was like, yeah, no, Chuck lives there, forget that. And then, you know, then of course I came down to Iowa 2001, I guess it was. And
Sure.
I realized how good it was just riding around glassing and stuff, and it's like, I feel like I need to live there.
Yeah. So you were obsessed with whitetail hunting long before you got here.
Oh, for sure, yeah, that's what got me finally looking, because I was obsessed with it, and then it's, okay, what's the next benchmark, where can I go from here, you know?
Yeah. And what was like a top end buck that you were hunting in Michigan before you made the move?
I mean, really, 150, if you could see a 150 back there, you really did something, you know. They were few and far between at that time. I think maybe it's a little bit better now, but still, 150 is a big deer anywhere.
Sure.
You know, so I didn't see too many, let me tell you, you know. A lot of 1.5-year old bucks and occasionally 2.5, and it was pretty rare to see a 3.5-year-old buck back there.
Like you said, it's a pretty solid buck anywhere, but once you've hit that sort of upper end of the spectrum, and that's the, you know, that's as high as you're going to get, maybe you start looking for opportunities elsewhere. So
Exactly, yeah.
was there any hunts back from those early days that stick with you more than others, you think, before you got to Iowa?
I mean, definitely got to be my first buck, and I just talked about that on the Fraser hunt. You get a chance to watch it. So, you know, my first buck was a big deal, you know, because my dad was with me. Kill the deer, and I'm hollering for my dad, Dad, I got him, you know, like we all dream about as kids. And so he comes running out of the brush, and, you know, we had a good celebration. So that one definitely sticks with me. Of course, my Pope and Young that we filmed earlier up there that I shot when I was probably 20 years old or something like that. And of course, that one really fueled the fire. It's like, I love this already, but now it's like, okay, I see what's possible, what we can do. And so I think that one really set the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, now I'm in. I'm all in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2000, you say 2001 you moved to Iowa?
I came out in 2001, moved here in 2002.
Okay. You came out to hunt in 2001?
Well, yeah,
or-
Dad had a tag, so we both put in. Dad drew and I didn't,
I
so
see.
I just came out with him.
Did you guys hunt down here in southern Iowa where you live now, or?
Yeah, pretty close actually,
Really?
about 20 minutes from here.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Colder than heck. We were in this old camper. You know, of course, Dad's stuff was never new. Never had a lot of money, so I remember wearing my stocking hat to go to bed. It's like I was all bundled up, stocking hat. We'd be laughing about it, you know. But you know, I had a great time and seen some nice bucks. So I knew at that time I'd like to move here.
Yeah. So in around 2001, you decided to make the move. Did you have a job lined up, or how did you make the transition? Because that's not an easy thing to do. I assume all your family's from Michigan.
Right.
You're just moving out here on your own.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the things, obviously, I had to start looking at. Okay, well, if I'm going to move out there, what am I going to do for work? And it just so happened, a lot of things have happened like this in my life that just fell into place at the right time. They ended up, I was working for a pool company, and we're in distribution, and they ended up opening a branch in Des Moines. And so I went and talked to my boss, and I said, I'd really like to move out there, you know, is it an option to, of course, we're good friends, so I don't want to leave him high and dry, but he was super cool about it, and, you know, he even put in a good word for me, you know, get Owen out there. I think he was thinking I was going to come back, though. I was going to get out away from the family and be like, well, you know, I kind of miss everybody, I'll be back, but no, once I got here, it was all over.
Got that first resident tag, it changed your tune. Huh?
Oh, man, I loved it out here.
Yeah, so you got your roots planted here, made the transition down. Was that scary, or
Not really,
were you
because
excited, I guess?
well, I always thought of myself as a pretty good worker, whoever I'd ever worked for. And I always felt like I could move out here, and anybody I ever worked for would take me back.
Sure.
And so I didn't feel a lot of risk, really. I mean, of course, it's a big deal moving your family. I was married at the time, had one kid at the time, and then had another one out here in Iowa. But, you know, so it's still a big deal. I'm moving away from your family when you lived your whole life by your mom and dad, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, overall, I didn't feel that much risk because I felt like I could always go back.
Well, that's good. You didn't burn any bridges, so you got the opportunity back there.
Yeah, definitely not.
So you were, at that time, were you living closer to Des Moines then, running the business and sort of working in his pool business?
Yeah, so I was living in Norwalk. I wanted to be kind of on the southern part because I knew I wanted to hunt in southern Iowa. And then I would drive up to work, which is closer to Ankeny up there. But yeah, it worked out good.
At some point you started your own business.
Yes.
Was that several years after you lived here, or how long into your time here in Iowa was that?
So I'd been here 3 years. Yep.
Okay.
So 2005, I started my own thing, my own pool business.
And was it before that you bought your first farm here in Iowa?
Just before that, yeah. So it'd been probably a year and a half, maybe before that.
So you bought your first farm. Where was that one located?
So that was in southern Iowa, like I was hoping to, find. And I was just putting out the feelers at the time because I knew I wanted to own land. And so I'm just talking to different friends and people. And it's like, kind of looking for a farm. If you know of anything that, comes up maybe off market, let me know. And so that's how I found that first piece.
What was it? Do you remember how big it was?
It was a
Your first piece?
120. It was a
120.
120, and it was priced right at the time. I wish we still had that now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the price per acre back then?
It's $650.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd never find that again. And I remember at the time thinking, a lot of stuff was $1,000, maybe $1,200. I was like, man, if I'd have just been here 10 years earlier,
Yeah.
I could buy all this ground, because that was kind of the going rate back then. And,
Right.
But as it turns out, I was lucky to find that when I did.
Yeah, I think we all probably say that from time to time. I wish it was 10 years ago, and 10 years from now, we'll probably be looking back saying the same thing. So
That's right.
So you started with 120 acres, but then shortly after that decided to start your own business. So that had to be a little bit stressful, I would imagine, that you've got this now payment on a farm and
Yeah.
family here, you just relocated.
Yeah, that was more stressful than definitely moving out here because I'm married, I've got 2 kids at the time, and then you're going to go do your own thing. I remember about 30 days I didn't sleep. There was about 30 nights, just getting ready to transition because I had a good job. I was a branch manager. I had a fuel card, a vehicle, they were providing all this stuff, but I loved hunting so much. I'm like, this is an opportunity to hunt more. Think about that for a second. I'm making these huge decisions, my family and everything, just so I can hunt more. And so, when you get to this point and you're able to do this kind of full time, it's like, you took a lot of risk to get there. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. Talk about that business a little bit, what it was. I mean, you moved here with that guy's branch, the branch he opened. You came here to run it.
Yep.
And that was a pool business. And then maybe talk a little bit about the business you started.
Yeah, so I was in the pool business from the time I got out of high school, and I worked in distribution and got to learn a lot of different things doing that, So I went from 93 to 2002 out here, and then eventually 2005 when I opened my own business. So, like a lot of guys get into it, you feel like you know enough, like, okay, I can do this on my own now, at this point. And so I did that, of course, stressed out. Am I going to get enough business? You know how it is going on your own. It's like, can I do this without my full-time job? And, I couldn't have worked out any better. And now, being my own boss for this long, I don't know if I could go back to working for somebody. It'd be tough.
Yeah. So you mainly around the Des Moines area just installed pools for people, right? That was kind of the mainstay of the business.
Right, yeah. Most of it was around Des Moines. Did quite a bit of work in Oskaloosa, Ankeny, and, the bigger where the money was at for the most part. And yeah, I mean, you talk about hard work, building in-ground pools. If you think you're tough, come out and do that in 100-degree weather for a while.
Yeah, that and laying concrete. I mean, there's a lot of similarities to it. I don't think people realize, but
brutal, man. Some days are brutal. Now, if you have nice weather, there's worse things you could be doing, but some days are just brutal.
Yeah, so the upside is you work hard all summer and maybe a little into the fall, but then you're off for 4 months, I guess. Or
that's exactly what I looked at when I was making the switch. I'm like, I can get falls. And that's what kept me in the pool business even before my own business, is you'd slow down in the fall. Now I could go hunting. Maybe I could go out west. And so, the summers are just horrible, brutal. And every year you'd be like, I'm going to get out of this. This is my last year. And then you'd get to the fall and be like, you're out hunting. You're like, I got another year left, And so, yeah, that's what kept me in it all those years.
Yeah. So you bought your first farm. How long did you own that farm?
Well, it would have been when I met you. 2007 is when I sold that. So, 2003 to 7, about 4 years.
Yeah, a little while then.
Yeah.
So at some point you sold it. Why did you sell it? What led you to do that?
Well, again, I was getting to that tier, or the next wanting to raise the bar, and I felt like, okay, can I take what I've got here and double this into a bigger farm? maybe a better farm, maybe more deer, something you can manage a little bit better. So, you know, as we've gone on in time, it's just gotten more and more competitive as far as people, you know, hunting all around you and stuff. So just trying to add more acres, you know, can I do it? And of course, at that time, I knew the price had gone up quite a bit in the time I owned that.
So you started with a 120,
Yep.
sold that, and you bought, what was the second farm you bought?
It was 240, so
240, so you doubled it.
Yep.
Doubled it. And what was the price per acre for 4 years later? Do you remember what you got out of your first one?
Yeah, I mean, roughly, I think I got right around 1900 on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it basically tripled my money.
Your money, yeah.
Yep. And then going into the new farm was around 1500. There's probably
Gotcha.
some odd 1525 or something like that. So still a pretty good deal. And then it had some income on it. Like we talked earlier, my first farm had no income on it, and I ended up making some income on it. But then I moved into this new farm, a 240 that had 100 acres of CRP on it.
Sure. So it already had some income on it. So
Yeah.
it was going to be a little higher per acres, sort of market price. So market prices at that time in 4 years, do you think that the market had tripled, or do you think you actually improved the value that much?
I think I improved the value quite a bit on that piece because I had some great trail pictures on that one. So I mean, any hunter looking at it is going to be like, "Whoa, what's this?" You know. And so it was a good area.
Yeah. So once you bought your first farm and you moved into the second one, did you sort of have this vision that like one day I'm chasing a certain number of acres, or did you just enjoy the process? Like, did you have a goal when you started?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you alluded to the process. You know, once I finally got my feet wet into land ownership and you're able to do everything I do to them, you know, try to manipulate them, put food on them, bedding and everything like that, and then it works exactly like what you were thinking. And I know I've said it before, it's just rewarding. It's like going out to public and, you know, spotting, stalking a buck or something's rewarding, but doing all this kind of work and then he reads the script is rewarding too. I mean, it's just a thing you keep doing over and over, and it's every time it works, it's super awesome, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of payoff in that. Not only are you improving the value of the farm, making it worth more, so that if you do sell it down the road, you know, you reap that benefit, but there's more enjoyment that comes out of it. Even just if you're not shooting a deer, I mean, that's my opinion.
Oh, for
Sitting in a
sure.
blind, watching the deer, you
Any-
know, in a food plot that I've planted, that's pretty rewarding in
Ex-
itself.
Exactly right. And anymore, I say that I'm kind of turning into a deer watcher because I get just as much enjoyment just sitting there watching deer anymore, you know?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I'm just ate up with it, and they're a fascinating animal, and just love it.
Was it always deer? I guess we didn't hit on that early on, but like, did you start with hunting something else that you were excited about, or was it like, as soon as you started hunting whitetails, it's full bore into that, never turn back?
I mean, it didn't start out that way. I started out with small game, like a lot of guys, you know, squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting. I was big into fishing. A lot of people don't know. When I was a kid, I lived on a lake, and we fished all the time. And of course, that was probably my first obsession. And then once I got to deer hunting, I was like, oh man, this is awesome being around big game, you know. And then so I just took the fishing one and moved it over to hunting, pretty much. So.
But you've, outside of whitetail right now, I mean, for the past 20 years, that's really it. You haven't gone out and bear hunted and hunted cougars or went out to Africa, like whitetails or nothing, pretty much.
No, the only cougar encounters I've had were at the bar.
Good.
Knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Set you up
Leave that
perfectly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So what is the hardest part of the process, do you think? Like maybe there's somebody out there who wants to do what you've done, where you started, you know, with a relatively small piece.
Yeah.
And you've sort of transitioned that farm into bigger and bigger farms. What is the hardest part about getting started?
The amount of work it takes to do this, like I would never recommend it to anybody because I've been a workaholic my whole life, you know, and it's like I was more comfortable with things probably than people. I've always been a real shy guy, and so, you know, a lot of people would be surprised by that, you know, but the amount of work that I've done, I mean, you have to alienate some people in the process of doing that. Between hunting a lot and then you work all the time, you don't want to spend as much time, you know, with your family, maybe your parents and that kind of thing as you would like looking back. You know, so that's definitely been the most difficult part.
Yeah. Would you say there's any of that you regret at this point in your life? Or do you feel like, you know, it was the trade-off you're willing to make?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when I look at my kids, and two of my kids are grown, you know, and there's a lot of time that I didn't spend with them that I would have liked to have, looking back, you know. But luckily, they came out for the summer, so we still had a great time. And, you know, and I would drive clear to Des Moines and clear back to the farm every night just so, you know, I could be around the kids. And
Yeah.
So it definitely could have been worse. I mean, the parents, again, looking back, they're both gone now, that I would have, definitely would have taken some more time with Dad and went on a couple more hunts. But at the time, you never know that's going to be their last year, their last 2 years. You just don't know that. You feel like, Dad would never say he didn't feel good or whatever. So you feel like, oh, he's going to be around 5 or 10 more years. We got plenty of time. But you realize later you didn't.
Yeah. The thing that waits on no man is time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I only met your dad once, but he was a character.
Oh yeah, I still remember the buck he shot when he was out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember it was, what was the saying he had? He'd be bigger next year.
Yeah.
That was everything. Every deer you shot, he'd be bigger next year.
Yeah,
so.
in Michigan, he said that so many times. You'd shoot a 1.5-year-old buck, and I'd call Dad, hey, Dad, I got one, let's go track him or whatever. He's like, well, he'd have been bigger next year. He'd say that all the time, and so they got to be a running joke. It's like, and that's another reason you wanted to raise the bar. He wanted me to raise the bar, I wanted to raise the bar, and so that's just how we got to that point.
Yeah. So thinking about the process of, you're buying a farm, I think we kind of hit on it, but did you have that goal when you started, that I just want to own a big farm and I see this as a path of I'm going to take farms that are maybe undervalued, fix them up, or did it just kind of naturally happen that way?
I think that part really just happened that way, just kind of morphed into that. At the time, I was hoping to own my 40, 50, 60 acres when I moved here, and then it started to snowball, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I can own more than I ever thought, than I ever dreamed of, and that just kind of started to happen as I was researching these properties all the time. I mean, I'd spend so much time, probably like you do, looking at everything for sale, and it's like, okay, how can I make this pencil out? And that's just the way it started. Okay, mainly it was probably for hunting. It's like, okay, where can I get another farm that I can hunt, and then make it pencil out. So that's how it started.
What are some of those things? Like, somebody's listening to this and they're thinking the same thing. Man, I want to buy my first 40, or maybe they've got 40 and they want to roll it in to a bigger piece. What are some things that you were able to do over the years that you think helped you with that? Obviously you had your business that you were using to maybe try to get the down payment, but once you've got the down payment and you're able to get that loan secured, well then what did you do to be able to, continue making the payments?
Well, I guess first of all is that blank slate I would always look for. A lot of times you could buy those, reasonable compared to maybe your tillable farms. The farmers at the time, they didn't care about them. If it's 50% timber, that was zero value to them. And so maybe you could go buy a farm that's 50-50 or whatever and buy it right. And so that was the start of it. I wanted a blank slate because it was priced, kind of in that sweet spot. And then as far as making the payment, it was just, can I, sometimes you doubt yourself, can I even make it work, and so you're just out there being a workaholic and it just all starts lining up.
Yeah. How many farms over the years? So from the time you moved here, that was 2001, it's 25 years ago.
2002, yeah.
Or 2002 is when you moved, that's right. So 24 years ago. How many farms have you owned in that time?
I'm not exactly sure, but I would say around 25, 20
Okay.
to 25, somewhere in there.
Yeah. What's the one you wish you hadn't sold? Because there's got to be one.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know what I'm going to say here. I had a beautiful farm in Ringgold County. It was full of income. It was a good hunting piece, but ended up finding my home farm, and sometimes you just can't keep them all, and so that's what happened.
Yeah. Do you ever get burned during the process, or do you always just seem to fall into the next opportunity?
A lot of things have fallen into place. I mean, I've had a couple where maybe you took a little loss on it, but in order to keep moving forward, you just went ahead and took the loss and moved on to the next one. Sometimes it's what you got to do,
Yeah. Anything you learned about that? Like, was there any consistencies into if a farm's not going to maybe pan out that you, hindsight looking back, maybe would have seen?
I mean, yeah, if I was going to say today, I would say your neighbors are a big part of that. If the big deer aren't there, there's a reason, and a lot of times it goes back to neighbors or whatever surrounds it. So I'd say that would be the one thing that I've learned, is to really pick your neighbors.
Yeah. Pick your neighbors before you pick the farm.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good motto.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if there's guys out there that are, again, they've got that farm and they're wanting to try and transition to the next one, if you had to pick just a handful of things that you think they could do to improve the value, what do you think those would be?
I mean, for sure food plots. If you're buying a blank slate like I did, for sure food plots. The other one is tillable for me. Like, Guys could pasture it, put cows on it, but that was never an option because I'm a big hunter. So first thing to go is the cattle. So that's one. Maybe you can go harvest some timber. Maybe there's some good walnuts on it, that kind of thing. Outside of that, I think it's just important that blank slate, because once you fix it up for hunting, whether it's food plots, setting it up, tree stands and blinds, everything you can do to a farm that we do, building access around the farm, maybe some farm crossings. When you do all of that stuff, I mean, the value just follows. So even though you bought a blank slate, now it's worth another 50% or whatever it is.
Well, now we're sitting here like we started the video at your cabin, your home where you live, on a beautiful farm in southern Iowa. Tell me about your management philosophy, because I'm sure that's probably changed a little over the years, even from the time that I first knew you.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I'd really have to think back about how it started. I think when I got here, I had certain size deer that I had in mind. Like my goal when I moved here is someday I wanted to shoot a 150. Someday I want to shoot a 170, and those were my two benchmarks. I thought were attainable, but not head and shoulders like you'd never do that. Like saying you wanted to shoot a 250-inch deer, like that's probably not going to happen. So, I mean, that was my goal when I moved here, and eventually it morphed into, okay, now how do you raise the bar even higher? Okay, there's a 150-inch deer that you were happy shooting a 150, but now you start to look at their age. Okay, he's a 153-year-old. Well, raising the bar even higher. Okay, now I want it to be age related. Now I want to hunt the oldest age class bucks, regardless of maybe what they score. Of course, if there's a big deer, you're going to go hunt him, if he's old enough. But, I would literally pass up any size deer if he was young, just because that wasn't my goal anymore.
Yeah, I know we've texted back and forth, and you've shared some really nice bucks that are just not quite there yet,
Yeah.
age-wise, and I know in the past we've talked about you're playing the odds, right? It's a roll of the dice, but you don't know what's going to happen. So
yeah, and so often, I mean, you do get burned. You try to pass him, and you're like, man, I hope he makes it, and he just doesn't make it. Then I've accepted that that's just part of it. That's gonna happen, and that's also what makes it rewarding, is when it all works out. You had a buck like a Loch Ness that made it all those years, and then you finally harvest him, and so that's just more rewarding than, well, I'm just going to start shooting 3-year-olds because the neighbor does. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of a philosophy, I guess.
yeah, do you have like a target age that you're looking for now before you'll harvest a deer?
It does depend on the area. So in some areas, it's 5-year-old deer, I feel like, is your top 10%. So that's kind of what I look at, is your top 10% of age class. In some areas, I think that's a 5-year-old. Some areas, it's a 6.5-year-old. So it just depends on where I'm at. But not younger than that.
Yeah. What are some like key aspects you think of managing a farm that maybe a lot of people just overlook? Maybe if they don't, they haven't had 20 plus years of experience doing it.
Right. Well, having that cover in the center, if you can find that, of course, there's a lot of things that I would pick, but that would be a major one if you're going to manage. So now they're in the center of your farm, working out to the food that you put there. And so during daylight hours, they're on your farm a higher percentage of time, Now you get into the rut and you kind of all throw that out the window because they're just wherever, who knows, and that's when a lot of them get killed. But so having that in the middle of the farm is one I would definitely key in on, and then having food close to that where it keeps them there during daylight. Eventually maybe they feed on to the neighbors or whatever. And I don't want to sound like the guy that doesn't want the neighbor to kill any deer, because I'm happy for everybody when they're successful, but I have my own goals, so I try to achieve my goals, and maybe that's part of it.
Sure. Yeah, is there, as you look back on a property that, maybe you would have acquired along the way that had been mismanaged, how long do you think it takes? Like you're talking about a 5-6-year-old buck that you're trying to harvest. How long do you think it takes to get a farm that, maybe it's been overhunted and it's got a bunch of 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds running around? Is that a farm you're looking at? And what do you think it takes to get it back to a farm that, you would want to own for the long haul?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've got to, have all the information to decide on that. Okay, what are the neighbors like? Was it just the farm itself that was overhunted, or is it the area, And so often it's the whole area, and eventually you learn just to steer clear of those. So I think there's a lot of information that can go into that as far as what you think of it.
So filming, I want to get into filming hunts because obviously that's how we met.
Yep.
2007, Is that what you said?
I think it was.
Man, that seems like so long ago, but also doesn't seem like it was that long.
Yeah, it could have been yesterday, it feels
Yeah.
like to me.
So when we started filming back in the day, and obviously you've gone on and done bigger and better things since I was helping you out. But talk about that a little bit, about your experience, kind of why you got into it, why you enjoy that.
Yeah, you know, I was just ate up with hunting, as you know. Amazed by whitetails. I thought they were an incredible animal. And then, you know, I always want to be out hunting, so okay, what can I do to be out hunting more? And so you start looking at, can you make any money doing this? And so that's where it started. It's like you see the Drurys and some of the old guys, you know, doing it. And so we just started filming. You know, I didn't have anybody I was working for. I just went out and started doing it on my own. And, you know, it's just snowballed into this, really. I guess I didn't see it ever becoming something I, you know, do partly as a job. You know, of course, I've always done other things, so it's never been just my full-time thing. But
So today you're filming for Midwest Whitetail, contributing regularly.
Yep.
This year you shot how many deer?
I killed 3. Devin, what'd you get, 2 on film? Devin killed a couple on film,
Yeah.
so we had a really good year. And the last 4 since Devin started filming me have been just fantastic. And I keep saying, I know we treat it like a full-time job, so we do a lot of work to make it happen. But I keep thinking, like, somebody's sending these deer. It's like he could have walked that way and he walks past me, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
I've been following along over the years, and yeah, it's been some awesome footage from Devin and great hunts.
Yeah, and, you
Awesome
know,
deer as well.
in terms of Midwest Whitetail, they have the best viewers out there, the guys that get it, you know, all the work you put in. I think, you know, probably stems back to Winky when he was doing something similar to what I'm doing, you know, having a farm you want to manage and all that, so.
Talk about the Loch Ness buck. That's a buck that I think a lot of people recognize and would
Yeah.
probably recognize right away if they saw a photo of it.
Yeah, you know, the history goes back to when he was a 2-year-old. And I had pictures of him. He's just kind of a wide, I mean, you can see what he looks like there, but he's just kind of a wide 2-year-old, spindly, like you would expect. And so you're like, that might be a nice deer someday. And then I seen him at 3, and he was already pushing like probably 170 as a 3-year-old. You know, great big wide thing, split brows, and you're like, whoa. But again, it goes back to my philosophy at the time was age related. So even though it's a giant deer, he's 170 inches, I'm not going to shoot him at 3. I'm just not going to do it. And you know, just my personal, I'm not saying nobody else should do that. I mean, everybody can have their own goals, you know, and that's fine. But for me, I wanted him to get to 6.5 on this particular farm, and so I just passed him up a couple of times. I've got good neighbors. We talked, you know, and so eventually he got to 6.5 and made it happen.
Yeah.
You know, what do you say?
Did he make some pretty good jumps along the way? 170 is already a
Yeah.
phenomenal benchmark, but as a 3-year-old, that's incredible.
Yep, he was like 170, and then as a 4-year-old, he was about 180, he was in the 180s, like 185. Then as a 5-year-old, he was 195, and then he went to 213 as a 6-year-old. So
Just steady growth.
yeah, steady
every
jump
year.
every year, and I've got his shed, as a matter of fact, over there in the barrel, so pretty
Yeah.
cool to see.
That was, I know I got to be a part of the recovery on that. That was like a pretty unique experience, having a whole team of people, but I know there's a lot of people that were just anticipating when you were going to get that deer.
Yeah, no, I was thankful. I remember being out west with you, matter of fact, talking about that deer. I was like, hey, Chuck, you got to check this buck out.
Yeah.
And we talked about that, and it was pretty cool you were able to make it down.
Yeah.
Sorry, Colin.
Yeah. Had to leave a good buddy's wedding to make it happen, but we got down here. So.
Yeah, that was awesome having all the guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you, as you reflect back, you know, over the years and the success that you've had, you know, what is on your bucket list? Like, what we talked about the mule deer hunt, but like, what's the next thing that you're chasing nowadays?
Well, I mean, I'm still ate up with these whitetails for one, so I mean, the one thing I've said for probably the last 5 or 6 years is once in my life I want to hunt just a behemoth of a whitetail. Not that some of these aren't just fantastic, huge bucks, you know, but one of those, you know, maybe top 10 in the world or something like that. I don't know if that's feasible. It seems far-fetched. You'd be better off just winning the lottery probably, but
Yeah.
so that's the goal right now. And of course, I still want a really nice muley, and I haven't gave up on elk hunting yet either. So
Yeah.
it's stuff that's still on the bucket list.
Yeah. I was wondering earlier, we were talking about filming. Has that ever cost you a big buck that you were after?
Oh, I'm sure many times, you know.
Yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head, I can't remember being called off from a deer, but there's been a lot of instances where I knew he couldn't get on him or whatever the case was, you know, and so there he goes, but never happened on an absolute gigantic buck. In the early years, if there was, you know, great big buck, I'd probably shot him anyway, but nowadays it has to be on film.
Yep. Yeah, a little higher standard nowadays.
Yeah, that's right.
So, well, yeah, that's pretty incredible. I think the muley, that would be an awesome hunt to be able to go out west and be able to do that.
Yeah, we always joke about that because you always want to go out elk hunting, and I always
Yeah.
want to go out after a big muley. It's
Right.
like, eluded me, that's why. It's under my skin.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about, you know, being a little bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably playing into that a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't take failure well either, you know. Wouldn't say I'm a sore loser, but I mean, it's the same thing with archery. Like, I want to do the best that I think of my ability, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah. Speaking of archery, you've picked that back up here in the past few years, been competing.
Yeah.
I want to hit on that. So talk about what's the league that you shoot, or the organization?
ASA.
ASA, okay.
Yeah.
So you were a champion one year, right? You won it in Iowa? So
Yeah.
it's just the Iowa League, or the Iowa Division?
Well, Missouri also. I shoot
Oh, Missouri.
Missouri's also.
Well, you're right on the border, that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it goes all the way back to Michigan. You know, we talked about how much I loved archery back in the day. And I figured out there was an ASA league, and I loved shooting 3D. I'd shoot all the local tournaments, and then I started getting into ASA back there in Michigan. And so I shot that 2 or 3 years, and then I moved out here to Iowa, and they didn't have that. Really, there was barely any 3D courses in the whole state. And then ASA didn't exist here, so I just kind of did my own thing. I was busy all the time, so I kind of got out of archery other than just shooting in my backyard like everybody else, you know.
Yeah.
And then we get into, gosh, probably 2023, I bet. I realized ASA is here in Iowa. You know, got to know everybody. Went to my first shoot, and I was shooting open, which is judging yardage, and I didn't realize today everybody just uses a rangefinder for the most part and shoots known. So I was the only guy shooting open, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a little old school. When I left Michigan, they didn't even have rangefinders. They were just coming out, you know.
Yeah.
And so been shooting known since, shooting the hunter class, which is a big deal as far as hunting goes, because I'm shooting similar setup to what I'm going to hunt with. You know, same bow, you know, maybe I change my arrows and my rest, but that's about it. And so you're using that all year long. When it comes to hunting season, you're ready to go.
Yeah. Get you dialed in for season.
Yep.
Yeah. So what year, because at one point you won your age bracket, right?
Right.
Which year was that?
So 2024, I won the Missouri State Championship.
Okay.
So I won that, and then I tied in Iowa, and the guy had more 12 rings, so that's the first tiebreaker. So he actually won. So then that gave me something to shoot for the next year. I want to come back and win Iowa. So then last year I won Missouri and Iowa. So I was
dang.
pretty happy about that. I mean, if you're going to pick a weekend to shoot really well, that was the one to do it. Shot great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But then again, I mean, it speaks to my level of preparation too. I do a lot of shooting, and it's like I don't go unprepared.
Yeah. I'd say, knowing you over the years, I feel like that's a pretty common thread, that no matter what you're doing, if you're doing it, you're going to go all in and you're going to prepare. You're not just going to go out there and hope that it's going to work out.
Yeah, whether it's archery, whether it's hunting whitetails or whatever else. I mean, there's some things I can just be like, that's good enough. But when it comes to that stuff, it's got to be just right. I mean, Devin will tell you if he's trimming a tree or putting a ladder stand up for me, you get that last limb that you can't get at all cost, you know. And if my tree stand's not level, he'll tell you he's been back to some 3 times. No, it's got to be level.
Not a perfectionist at all, right?
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about your pool business. You know, you've been in the pool business for over 30 years.
Yeah.
More recently, you started a new business. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not getting any younger, I found out, and the pool business is a tough one to stay in, especially if you're building. If you're just doing service, whatever, it's not bad. And so I've looked to transition into something else, and the Whitetail Insanity is what I wanted to do because it's in the industry. I wanted to do something hunting related. And so it's selling all the products that I've used for years. I just, whether it was seed, whether it was chemical for spraying, tree stands, trail cameras, whatever I would use, certain kinds of releases and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to sell and build that business behind.
Yeah. So Whitetail Insanity, that's the name of the business?
Yep.
And that is, people can find that online, whitetail.Insanity.com, I assume?
That's right, exactly. So.
Tell me about the seed. I know we talked a little bit. You've got a program going where you have sort of like a pre-made blend. Is that right?
I do. So I've got my own fall mix, which is brassicas. It's got some clovers in it and everything that I believe works really well. And I've also got a alfalfa clover blend, which works really well. We had some guys plant that and they've killed deer over it this year, so pretty excited about that. It's like I said, it's stuff that I believe in, stuff that I plant that maybe I just wasn't always like, this is exactly what I'm doing, alfalfa clover blend. But you know, I've been doing this long enough, there's no secrets left, and might as well just, you know, say what there is to say.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah. No, good. Well, I appreciate the time today. Thank you very much for hosting us and showing us around, sitting down.
Thanks for
answering all the
having me,
questions.
Chuck.
Yeah, thanks for having you to your
Yeah.
place.
No.
If people want to watch your hunts, that'd be midwestwhitetail.com
Yep,
or YouTube. They're big on YouTube now.
that's
Easy
where
to
they're
find
at.
there.
Yeah.
And then the website again, whitetailinsanity.com.
That is correct. And it was good to sit down with you, an old friend. We don't get a chance to talk much, so
Yeah.
I appreciate doing this, really.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing, if there's somebody out there that, you know, they want to be more successful in whitetail hunting, want to own their own farm, want to grow something that might resemble what you have over the years, what advice would you have?
Don't try it.
Don't try it.
No, really, I mean, it's just, you got to be a workaholic. I think if you start where I started, you don't have really an education. Got a high school education, so you're not a doctor or a lawyer. And so you really just got to be a workaholic to go out there and get that first piece. You got to build up enough for a down payment, as you know. And so that's the hardest part, is getting that first piece.
Yeah.
And you know, and I tell guys, you know, Joe that helped me for a long time and tried to get him into land, and it's like, buy the smallest piece you have to get your foot in the door, because it just keeps getting more and more expensive. And so if that's 10 acres, 20 acres, you get that. You can always 1031 once you get it fixed up, and you know, maybe, and then you get into a 40 or something like that. So
Yep.
that's what I would recommend doing, you know, from the standpoint of X's and O's, but just plan on working a lot. I mean, if you're like me, you're kind of blue collar, you're just going to have to work and work at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
No,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you, Chuck. Can't be too serious, guys.
Yeah.